Tonight, the Speaker Emerita, Nancy Pelosi, widely regarded as one of the most powerful House speakers in modern history, and also the first woman to ever hold that role, has announced that she will not be seeking re-election. It's a decision that will surely leave a void, not just inside the Democratic Party, where Pelosi became the face of historic clashes with President Trump, including this famous moment where she ripped up his State of the Union speech back in 2020, but also here in the halls of Congress behind me, where Pelosi has represented the people of San Francisco ever since her first election win nearly 4 decades ago in 1987. My source tonight is Shoykat Chakrabarti, who is the first to launch a bid for Pelosi's House seat earlier this year, and is also the former chief of staff and campaign manager for Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. And it's great to have you back here on the show because you had been critical of Speaker Pelosi on this show. Obviously, you launched your challenge to her seat before her announcement tonight. But I wonder, now that she has announced that she is no longer running, how you're viewing her legacy tonight.
Yeah, from the start of this campaign, I've always said I've got a lot of respect for the career she's had. And my critique was really about what do we think we need today? But I watched her retirement video today and, honestly, it was very moving. It was a love letter to San Francisco. And she really made this point about how San Francisco has always represented the future of this country. And not just because we're the home of the tech industry, but because we've always fought to push the country when the country isn't moving. And she really was that when she first came into Congress. At that time, San Francisco was being ravaged by the HIV/AIDS epidemic. And she was kind of this fearless voice that really fought for HIV/AIDS help at that time. And she got actual legislation passed. She got money into a district. And, I think it's really amazing. I think she's had an amazing career. And I think it's really a huge act of leadership for her to step down and keep that legacy intact, because you don't see that all too often in Washington.
Yeah. Do you think that's a move that other leaders should follow?
I do, and I don't think it's about age. I don't think it's about just how long you've been there. I do think that we're at a point where we do need a new Democratic Party. And I've been calling for that the entire time that I've been running. I think we need leaders right now who have the strength and the energy to actually fight this authoritarian coup that Trump is leading. But more than that, we've got to recognize that the American dream has just been shattered, and that's been going on for decades. That's the reason why we have Trump in there in the first place, and it's the reason why we got Barack Obama in 2008. People need leaders who are going to swear off corporate money, swear off lobbyist money, and actually fight to build an economy that really works for everyone. And I really think that's possible. I think this is going to be the moment, because we're going to get 4 years of MAGA. We're going to get 4 years of Trump, where Trump will have completely failed to actually deliver anything for the American people. So it's our chance to present a real vision for how do you do the big structural changes that people are really demanding.
So I'm going to remain calm. Okay. The real reason that Nancy Pelosi got out of the race, and we're going to get to that, but I have to introduce you to this guy. He was going to be opposing her, another Democrat. I don't know that he is a Democratic socialist, but something tells me that he is once you hear what he's for, universal health care, tax the rich, it's the same old mantra. Okay. This is the reason she got out. This is the reason she quit. It wasn't altruistic. She was waiting to see what happened with Zohran Mamdani. She wanted to know if the writing on the wall was actually real. This is where the Democratic Party is going right now. And it is, look, it's already happened to Europe, where foreigners, foreign born, and I don't know that he's foreign born, and I don't mean any slight, but these are people who are transfixed on changing America fundamentally. Like, all of their rah about democracy is all crap. They don't care about democracy. Zohran Mamdani is a fraud, of an absolute fraud. And everyone knows it. but people went out and voted for him anyway. The far wing of the Democratic Party is now front and center. And I believe he is a first generation, like he's born here. But this lurch to anything that isn't Christian, the lurch to anything that isn't America is happening. That's what I mean to say. Like, you can't be a Christian and be in the Democratic Party. I don't even know how that would even work. I know that Nancy Pelosi says that she is a devout Catholic. Trust me, she isn't. Okay, her actions betray her loyalties, and it ain't to the Catholic Church. So this is where we're going. This is the reason she got out of the race, because he was going to oppose her. And the writing's on the wall. All of the purple-haired people in their party, they want this guy. And people like him.
Well, and when you were here the last time, back in February, you said you thought the Democratic Party needed a whole revolution. Do you think Tuesday made you one step closer to that, or how did you view those elections?
Oh, yeah, I think it did. And it was really incredible because what I think is a fundamental fight within the Democratic Party right now is what we stand for. And I think that's actually intimately connected to how we campaign. Because in the party right now, there's an establishment that believes the only way to win races is from how much money you raise from your corporate donors. And what I saw in Zoran Mamdani's race was it didn't matter how much money got thrown at him, because he was outspent like $1 million to 1 or whatever it was, right? But he still was able to win because he actually stood for working people. He stood on a popular platform and he was able to mobilize a movement. And what that means is that when he's in power, that's going to be his source of power. He recognizes that he got there because of the people, not because of the money. I hope that we can do that across the country, because I think that's the only way we recreate a Democratic Party that's actually going to take the hard steps necessary to build an economy that works for working people.
Let me tell you something. Zoran Mamdani got so much money from people that are not in New York. It's crazy. Okay, that's first. Second, this nonsensical notion that Zoran Mamdani is for the working class. He isn't. In fact, I just saw an interview, and you can look it up, where he's doing a podcast, or at least it's an interview, and I saw it on Jimmy Dore, where he is asked point blank, what would you do with regard to, remember, he's in New York, and remember the mandates from New York, that if you were a government worker and you didn't take that jab, you're fired. If you don't take this experimental drug, you can't feed your family. That's what was happening. And he was asked point blank, will you reinstate this guy if it happened under your watch as mayor? He said no. He kind of hem-haws and figures, well, I know it's complicated and, public health is really important. In other words, I fall in line with Big Pharma. Period. End of story. That is Zoran Mamdani. He said, no, we will not hire him back. That's what he said. And it has nothing to do with the vaccine. It has everything to do with it's a civil rights issue. At bottom, Mamdani, the people's mayor, said, I wouldn't reinstate him. Period. End of story. And so this whole notion that he is, the working class guy, no, he isn't. He's the exact opposite. In fact, I don't even know if he's actually had a real job. I know he was a city council person or something like that, but has he had like a real job? You know, like where you have to get up and then go somewhere, you know, to earn a living? I don't know that he has. So that this guy is kind of, you know, praising him, saying that, you know, oh, his platform is working for the working class. The mask is off. I only showed you a small little snippet from Zohran Mamdani's victory speech. It wasn't a speech, it was a threat. Full of, we're here, you're not. It was all us, and you're out. And all of the Orthodox Jews in New York must be crapping themselves. Like they gotta be thinking there's no way this is happening. Oh, it's happening. But don't worry, he's a fraud. And he will side with big business. He's going to side with big business. I take that back. Big pharma.
Yeah, and you mentioned, obviously we focus so much on Zohran Mamdani. He's generated so much attention because of what a political rise it was. When you look at the races from Abigail Spanberger, though, and Mikey Sherrill in Virginia and New Jersey, respectively, does that show that there are other parts of the Democratic Party that are appealing to a more centrist, more moderate base in their races that were successful for them?
Yeah, and honestly, I don't even love using the words like centrism versus progressivism or moderate versus left, because I don't think that's the real fight right now. I think the fight is about, do you actually want to do something to build a new economy, or do you want to play it safe and not do much? And what I saw in Abigail Spanberger's race and Mikey Sherrill's race is they also stood for affordability. And I mean, Mikey Sherrill was calling for freezing utility rates in New Jersey, right? She is leaning into the fact that we actually have to be talking about doing something to make life livable for working people and for really, frankly, everybody. And I think that's a very exciting development. I'd love to see a Democratic Party where everybody is realizing that we have to talk, you have to focus with a laser focus on affordability, on the cost of living crisis. And then it's not going to be enough to just pass a few small reforms to get us there, because these problems have gotten to a point where we need to do things like pass single-payer healthcare, because we're the only developed nation in the world that doesn't guarantee healthcare to everybody, and we're the richest one. We can do it. We need to be talking about passing taxes on the wealthiest people in our society, because that's possible too. We need to be talking about getting rid of money in politics. These are all very popular policies, and it's very exciting to me to see every part of the Democratic Party starting to adopt that.
I am amazed. I really am. At the people like this who feel as though your hard work, he is owed the fruits of your labor. Like it should go to you. It should go to him. Do you guys remember? And there was a cartoon, and there was it was animals, and it was a cow, and the cow was going to bake an apple pie. And all of the other animals, you know, you got a fox and a dog and a rabbit and a raccoon. And she says, okay, well, I'm going to need some flour. Can somebody please go make me some flour? Because I'm going to need it to make my pie. And nobody was willing to do it. And then she says, well, okay, I'll do it myself. And then she's like, hey, I'm going to need some apples. I'm going to make an apple pie. I need some apples. Can anybody go pick me some apples? Nobody was there to do it. The rabbits won't do it. The fox wouldn't do it. No other animals would do it. And he says, well, okay, well, I'm going to need some spices, some spices for the apple pie that I'm making. Can anybody go help me? Nobody was there. So she did it all herself. And then the cow puts the pie in the window, and it's cooling. And so now it's time to eat the pie, and all of the animals are there with their hand out for their piece of her pie. That's what this is. That's what the Democratic Party have become. your labor I owed. You built a business. I wasn't there when you built it. I wasn't there when you did the R&D. I wasn't there when it was failing for 5 years. I wasn't there when you were in the red. But now that you are successful, I want my cut. That's what's happening. That's what this is. I want a piece of it. It's not I want a piece. It's like, I want my piece. It's mine. I don't know where they get off. But this is not American ideal. This is not how America has ever worked. That I get to confiscate your wealth because you're successful. If you're successful, I am owed. So we're going to get into now the more nitty gritty. Okay. The more nitty gritty as to why Nancy Pelosi bowed out, because there's some revelations coming. Okay. That people are not talking about.
Joining us now, giant killer, Shoykat Chakrabarti. So he was the campaign manager and chief of staff for AOC in that legendary primary where AOC knocked out Joe Crowley. He is the candidate against Nancy Pelosi. And today, down goes Pelosi. Down goes Pelosi. Shoykat, good to have you back on the program. Are you right now the only person in the race? Unopposed now that your opponent Nancy Pelosi has surrendered?
I'm not the only one in the race. There is one other person in the race who hopped in a week ago. He's really the establishment pick, but I think you want to get ahead of it. But he's been running for a little bit, and so it's the two of us right now.
Okay, so I'm gonna come back to him in a second because that means he probably knew what Pelosi was gonna do. Okay, because they're not done with you yet. So I'm calling Shoykat the West Coast Mamdani, and now that Pelosi has stepped down, there's a little bit of truth to that. Look, Shoykat, keeping it real. Of course, it wasn't just you that drove Pelosi out, right? She's 84 years old, etc. But do you think that given the strong challenge you were doing and how you'd close a tremendous amount on the polling already, and given that Mamdani just knocked out Cuomo, that Pelosi might have been worried about losing that primary?
Yeah, there's actually some reporting on Politico that I just saw that Pelosi had prepared 2 different videos for today for her retirement. One was a retirement announcement and one was a re-election announcement. So I don't think she had made up her mind well in advance. But what I do know is this campaign has had so much momentum over the last several months. We just did a rally about a couple weeks ago in the Mission. We had 800 people show up. And Cenk, you remember when we were running races in 2018, when there was this appetite for change, we had nothing like that, right? Like the biggest rally I think AOC had was about 40 people. And that's not a knock on her at all. She's an incredible candidate. I mean, she's amazing. It's just the demand for change was overwhelming, and it really is overwhelming right now. And then on top of that, we released some polling last month that showed that when voters hear about me and they hear about her, so nothing negative about her, they just hear about the 2 campaigns, our campaign ends up winning by 6 points. So I think all that really did feed into her decision at the end of the day. And I don't know when she finally made the decision. I know she had 2 videos lined up and she went with the one to decide to retire today.
So this looks like this is the reason she retired. She saw the polling numbers. She saw that the win for Mamdani, and she figured, I'm gonna get my butt handed to me. And rather than suffer that, we need some newer, younger blood. But understand what's happening. This is not an establishment pick. This is like Cenk Uygur just said, this is the West Coast Zohran Mamdani. Okay. No more foreign aid to Israel. No, we need universal health care. I'm amazed at the people who say that, other developed countries have free health care for everyone, and we just I don't understand. As a developed nation, how do we not? It's like, because we got 350,000 people, 350 million. And we got 300 and maybe 30 million. Okay, it doesn't work like us like it works in like Switzerland or France or any of the European countries, because we've got 330 million people. I'm amazed at the people like, well, the other nations are doing it. So what? Other nations are doing it. Big deal. Calm down. I gotta calm down. When the children of Israel came to God and said, we want a king like the other nations have a king, God warned them, no, you don't. They insisted. We want a king because all of the other nations have a king and we don't have a. We want some we can touch and feel. And God relented. It was Samuel the prophet said that Lord, I told them what you said and they rejected me. And God tells Samuel, they didn't reject you, that they rejected me. They had like 37 horrible, ungodly, anti-God kings in Israel. Look it up. It's like, just because some other nation did something doesn't mean that we can do it. Doesn't mean that we have to do it. Stop comparing us to other nations. I'm so over that. Okay? But this is their call. Well, then Switzerland did it, so why can't we? How many people does Switzerland have? In total. What about France? What about the UK? They don't have 330 million people. I'm so over that crap, I cannot tell you. So pay attention.
No, the two Mamdanis beat her then, for sure. Because if she had two videos ready, as Politico's reporting, that means she hadn't made up her mind and was waiting for the election results. And remember, the Democrats won everything, so it's not like she would have been discouraged, like, oh no, the Democrats will never get control of Congress again. In fact, if she'd stayed and she had won, she might have been Speaker of the House again, especially given the results from yesterday. But because Mamdani won, I think she started to get nervous. Biden stayed too long. Cuomo stayed too long, even though he's not as old as them. But he was a governor and tried to come back as mayor. Obviously, you guys beat Crowley, with AOC, and now you're beginning to see the handwriting on the wall, right? And so it seems like that Mamdani win with you closing in as well, kind of had her in a pincer move that got her worried enough to drop out. So, but tell us about the polling. How much did you close that got her worried?
Well, I know when I started the campaign, we were down 25 and we closed that gap in half just over the several months I'd been campaigning. And then the poll showed that if we had kept going against her, we'd end up winning by 6, right? So it was just a matter of getting my name out there, getting the campaign out there, because everything I'm running on, it's all overwhelmingly popular, both in the district and across the country, right? This is a platform that the voters are behind. The politicians aren't necessarily behind it, because I do call for getting rid of big money in politics. I call for a tax on the richest people in our country. I call for ending all military funding to Israel. These are all things that voters overwhelmingly support, but the politicians don't do. And so I think, that of course she saw that polling and that made a difference. But I agree with you. The other thing that the Mamdani race really showed is that it is possible to defeat the establishment when you are standing for working people, when you're standing on a set of policies that are popular, and when you can communicate that. Because Mamdani, he got outspent like 100 to 1 or something crazy like that, right? And the establishment, all they know is how to raise money, and they believe that's the only way to defeat people in elections. So when someone like Mamdani wins with a people-powered movement, the establishment doesn't really know how to respond to that, because all of a sudden their main weapon, money, it doesn't work anymore.
Joining us now, Giant Killer.
So here's this whole notion that, hang on a second. So I'm not sure. I know that there was a like maybe 130,000, something like that he got from foreign aid. But this notion that it's grassroots, Zoran Mamdani had one thing going for him, okay? He had foreign-born people in New York City. They overwhelmingly voted for him. And that is the dynamic that nobody seems to care about. It's like they're talking about it like somehow, no, there's a New York made their decision. It's like, no, not really. I had someone told me, well, you don't understand, once you're a naturalized citizen, you're an American. It's like, I understand that. I also understand that everybody that comes here and becomes a naturalized citizen doesn't like our country. They don't like our way of life. They're here to dismantle, as Zoran Mamdani said, here to dismantle the conditions that allow Donald Trump to gain power. Okay, foreign-born people came to New York City, and now they've given him their mayor. Anti-America, pro-socialist Mamdani. And by the way, he is such a fraud. He is not for the workers. He is, when you listen to his speech, it's as if he won the presidency. It's like, dude, you're just a mayor. Calm down. And I'm going to tell you, this is happening across the Democratic Party. How long do you think Christians in the party are going to last? Any Christians that are in the Democratic Party, and there are some, you will not have a position of leadership. You can be in the party, but you got to come through the back gate. You can be in the party, but you got to work in the kitchen. You can be here, but you got to shine our shoes. Any Christian, you better not proclaim it. You better shut up about it. You see Nancy Pelosi, the devout Catholic, which she isn't, the devout Catholic. She saw the handwriting on the wall. I gotta tell you, man, all over Europe, there are Muslim mayors all over Europe. Foreign-born, they even have courts. I don't know what else to tell you. Okay? But there is a revolution going on in the Democratic Party right now. And I'm guaranteeing you this. Zoran Mamdani and this guy, and I found it's really difficult for me to pronounce his name. It sounds like it's called Shortcut. I think it's Shortcut, but it comes off as like shortcut. It's not. And anyway, when you see it, here, look. Shakat. I think that's how you pronounce it. And I'm not even going to attempt the last name. I'll have to learn it, but I'm not even going to attempt it right now. But this guy is one of, my guess is going to be many. In Michigan, they have the Islam like call to prayer where they blasted they're in Afghanistan. They blast it on the speakers, so everyone around you hears it, and I think it happens multiple times a day. Does anyone say, "Hey, that's a disturbing of peace"? It's a nuisance. Nope. Not in Michigan. Not in Michigan. My whole problem with this is that they are anti-America, and they want us to look like other nations. Now, with regard to this revolution in the Democratic Party, we are having a bit of revolution in the Republican Party. I don't know that you're aware of it. There's this guy, and I'm gonna show you. His name is Nick Fuentes, and it's my understanding like he's a white nationalist, like far right nationalist. You know, at least that's what they say. Very anti-Israel, anti-Jew. At least that's what it appears. And you can tell me, trust me, I'm going to show you some stuff. It's pretty like heinous, but I'm amazed that people are listening to this person, number one, but number two, there is a real struggle right now in the GOP for control. Primarily because we know that Donald Trump was not going to run for re-election. That's a fantasy. Held by the left, by the way. Held by, lunatics like Gavin Newsom. He's not running for office again. It's ridiculous. And he knows it. Everyone else knows it. And right now, people are vying for positions of power to be the bigger influence. So what's happening in the Democratic Party is happening in the GOP as well. We are not absolved. I'm so pissed right now. Our party, I'm trying not to yell, but man, oh man, am I pissed.
So you and I have talked about Nick Fuentes many times over the years in our many appearances together, and that's how I knew about him, because he was saying absolutely terrible things about you. And I am going to show a video, please forgive me, of one of my first introductions to this guy, Nick Fuentes, and what he was saying about Ben. This is a video of him showing himself playing Grand Theft Auto, right, a video game where you shoot people, and he's pretending that this character in the video is Ben. Let's watch.
Oh, that's funny. Oh, that's funny. Man, that makes me laugh and laugh. That's a funny one. What a chance encounter that was. I think I just saw Ben Shapiro.
And it goes on. It goes on.
I mean, I would hate for people to believe that the Nick Fuentes sort of, my problems with Nick Fuentes are about me, because they really are not. They are about the fact that Nick Fuentes is a truly horrifying person who believes truly horrifying things. And again, there is a reason why Charlie Kirk despised him. There is a reason why every mainstream political commentator has been highly critical of him. It's the reason why these are not arguments. This is not a person who's making arguments. He is a Hitler-loving troll, and I say that advisedly. He literally says on his show that he loves Adolf Hitler. Okay, so the reason this has come up in recent weeks is because Tucker, your guest last night, decided to have him on last week and to completely gloss him, in my opinion. And you can make up your own opinion as to what you think Tucker was doing during that interview, but I know what it looks like when Tucker Carlson decides to be an aggressive interviewer, when he decides to ask difficult questions of people. Tucker is eminently capable of doing that. He did it to Ted Cruz quite thoroughly. But he decided for any number of reasons, and I try not to attribute motivations to people, that he was going to treat Fuentes with kid gloves, that he was going to not ask him about any of the things that I've just mentioned, literally any of them, and to essentially normalize Fuentes, act as a sort of gateway drug, or as what I've called Tucker, as an ideological launderer of bad ideas over the last couple of years. And this is not coming from a place of animus for Tucker on a personal level. I've known Tucker for a very long time. Tucker and I, whenever we're in personal situations, we get along great. I think I saw that Tucker talked about how we were at Charlie's memorial in the vice president's box together, and he's correct. I mean, we saw each other, we said hello, we talked, it was very friendly, and all of that. And it's also true that a couple of days after Charlie's murder, he reached out and he called me and he said, listen, I know that we're at odds, and we've been at odds for a number of reasons, mainly political. I mean, again, on a personal level, I'd go fishing with Tucker anytime. The real question is, for me, I got into this business because I care about the ideas and I care about the ideals. And so when you're determining what is conservatism, what should the future of America look like, and where do you draw the lines, those are the questions that I need to answer in my job. For me, my business is really not about friendship. I have lots of friends, people who I love, with whom I disagree on politics and don't believe they should be leaders in the conservative movement, for example. And that to me is the real question. In any case, Tucker reached out. He said, we've had a bunch of disagreements, and what if we could put those aside and align toward the TSAE in particular, is what he mentioned. And I said, Tucker, you're totally right. Let's do that. That would be great. In fact,
the TSA?
The DSA, the Democratic Socialists of
Why
America.
the TSA? How did that bring you together?
The Democratic Socialists of America. And the reason
I know.
Yes, and the reason that I'm taking out
TSA
my
only
phone
divides people.
is because, yes, the reason I'm taking out my phone is because I don't just, I like to evidence what I'm saying with, actual evidence. So I texted him. And the text exchange was very nice. I mean, here's what the actual text exchange went like after the call. So I texted him and I said, thanks so much for calling. It means the world. It truly does. Should we do a show together talking about the DSA threat, Democratic Socialists of America threat, and orienting in the same direction? Happy to do whatever it takes to bring everyone back together for the fight that matters. And Tucker then wrote back, thanks, man. I appreciate it. I'm going to spend the next week or two thinking about how to be most effective. The country is clearly on the brink. I reached out repeatedly after that. Nothing happened. And again, I thought it was a good idea at the time. I think I felt differently after I saw what he did with Nick Fuentes, and after he proceeded, in my opinion, to spend the subsequent weeks doing literally nothing to fight the left. I say this with sadness because Tucker used to be, I think, a deeply important part of the conservative push to win. The number of times that Tucker Carlson has mentioned Zohran Mamdani since October 5th on his show is once. And it was in the context of Marjorie Taylor Greene and Tucker Carlson talking about the appeal of Zohran Mamdani. Just by way of contrast, not because I'm a perfect representative here, but because you've talked about Zohran Mamdani a lot. A lot of us have. Since October 5th, I did 17 separate shows on Zohran Mamdani, including 4 in the last week before the election. Okay, because when you're orienting against the left, you really should orient against the left.
Okay, so a lot in there.
A lot to unpack there. Number one, the Grand Theft Auto video, and pretending that is Ben Shapiro, pew, 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 pew. I'm trying to remain calm. All right. I'm really, really, really trying to remain calm. When I see this happening on the right, I know it's happening on the left. The socialists are taking over the party. It's clear. It's clear as day. They are taking over the party. With Nancy Pelosi bowing out because she knows she's going to get trounced. Zohran Mamdani, all of these other progressive, what they call progressives, that's where their party is headed. And now it seems as though we are having a real dilemma with regard to what does conservatism look like? I, for one, think that conservatism looks like Christianity at bottom. That Judeo-Christian ethic. You do kind to those who oppose you. You don't bring a gun to a debate. These are Christian tenets that you work for your keep. These are biblical principles. Okay. You are not owed your neighbor's wealth. You are not owed your neighbor's work and wealth. Just because they went out and worked hard, and I don't care if they didn't work hard. If they won the lottery, it's theirs. It isn't yours. And this is what Democrats have been doing now for decades. They just tax the hell out of it. Well, tax and tax and tax and tax and tax and tax until people just leave. That's what's going to happen in New York. You already see it happening. Like, you really think that rich people are going to sit around and just get built? No. They're all going to leave. So it's now happening on the right. What does conservatism look like? Unfortunately for us, we are no longer a Christian nation. That's the problem that we are facing. And we have people in our party, like I don't know that he's a Republican or not, but he certainly doesn't sound like a conservative. He does not sound like a conservative. In fact, let's just get to it. Now, so these things are going to be kind of vile, all right? So it's not cussing and anything like that, okay? It is heinous, however. And I don't know that you need to remove your kids if they're, with earshot. It's just, it's going to feel a bit jarring. Okay.
So for the past several days now, we have covered the growing storm of backlash against Tucker Carlson from his own party. Yesterday, Douglas Murray became the latest conservative to do so. He's now infamous for his debate with Dave Smith on Joe Rogan's show, in which Murray tried to argue that Smith can't comment on Israel if he's never been there. Anyway, Murray wrote the following op-ed in the New York Post, and it reads, "Conspiracy kook Tucker Carlson is no conservative and no friend to Charlie Kirk and JD Vance." In the op-ed, Murray points out that Carlson claims to be a friend of both Vance and the late Kirk. In fairness to Murray, Nick Fuentes, who Carlson interviewed last week, was a longtime opponent of Charlie Kirk's, and he's made some genuinely disgusting comments about both JD Vance and Vance's wife, Usha Vance. Here's just one example. Take a look.
Why would we let this fat guy who's married to a and works for a gay CIA Fed, why would we let him grow? It's like so insane. The JD Vance operation is in full swing, man. Think about it. Andrew Tate and Bronze Age pervert and all these people for years, all they talk about is going to the gym, being a vitalist, fighting the Matrix, India smells bad, all this kind of. And now they're all in favor of a fat race mixer who's married to a who named his son Vivek, who was mentored by a Jewish neocon and a gay Fed, Peter Thiel, and the guy's in bed with Israel. And that's your guy? And I'm the controlled opposition, really? Your guy is literally a fat gay race trader who married a.
Okay, that was a lot. All right, so now let's watch Tucker Carlson explain the reason why he felt conflicted about bringing Nick Fuentes on and why he ultimately made the decision to do so.
Before we get to that, so that was Nick Fuentes. He said way more heinous things than that. Okay, way more. He's a race mixer, talking about JD Vance. Mad about naming his kid. I'm not sure what Nick Fuentes is. I do know this. He's got the ear of millions of young people. And my concern is that this is going to split the party. So here's the dynamic that's happening right now. Okay. Donald Trump is not going to run again, despite what Gavin Newsom tells you. He's not running again. Right now, everybody is jockeying for positions. Now, JD Vance is the front runner, and for good reason. Donald Trump picked him as vice president. There's a reason. And as far as I can see, JD Vance is solid. And I mean solid. That Nick Fuentes doesn't like him actually makes me like JD Vance even more. Okay. Anyone who praises Hitler, which he does, anyone who denies the Holocaust happened. I once met a guy like that. We were at a cigar shop and he was telling me how, no, it's all a hoax. And I'm like, so all of those documentaries are part of the hoax? I mean, look, you can just go look at history. Those were all hoaxes? So because, by the way, if those are hoaxes, then explain all of the Nazis that the CIA recruited to come here and do their work here. If it was all a hoax, what about that? How is that a hoax? Is that a hoax too? We didn't recruit Nazis to come here and work for the government? That didn't happen? Well, we all know it did happen. We know that happened. And it was appalling when you look at what they did to one segment of their society, namely the Jews. And I'm always curious as to why you were denying this. I mean, how deeply have you looked into it? So these concentration camps those were just staged? So when people go there and visit and walk through Auschwitz, and it's like enormous. That was all a hoax? The black and white film of them emaciated, those were all hoaxes? The gas chambers, those are hoaxes? You hate Jews that much? See, I have never understood the hatred people have for Jews. I've never understood it. Maybe it's possible since I don't have that gene where it's those people. I don't have that gene because I see individuals. There's a reason that God doesn't save groups. He doesn't save ethnicities. He saves individuals. So I don't know what's happening right now with the GOP, but it ain't good. And so you're going to have a wing of this party that is going to be the Nick Fuentes type. And they're going to be anti JD Vance, which is, I do not understand that. Again, what is that about? It's almost as if like, look, the very fact that I'm talking about Nick Fuentes is kind of, you know, in a very small way, because my channel's not very big here. It's single boosting. It's giving them more, you know, fodder, which, okay. If talking about him does that, so be it. But I'm not going to pretend he doesn't exist. So my first my first inclination is that Nick Fuentes is not a Christian. Right. Like David Duke is not a Christian. I know he calls himself one. I understand that part. But Stu, he calls himself a Christian. You don't get to decide whether or not he is. No, but Jesus said you'll know them by their fruit. He made it very clear, we will know them by their fruit. You can't hate person, and this is Bible. You can't hate a person that you can see, and then in the same sense, say you love God who you can't see. The Bible says the love of God is not in you. So he clearly isn't a Christian. Okay? I don't know how you deal with that part of the GOP. And I don't know how prominent that wing of our party is. But increasingly, young people do not support Israel in any way, shape, or form. Now, I'm all for not sending them, you know, billions of dollars. I get that. You know how many homeless we have right now? This is like, why in the world are we sending any foreign country billions of dollars where we got real things going on right now in our own backyard? Why are we doing that? You can support Israel, but you don't have to give them billions and billions of dollars. I don't understand that. By the way, I am pro-Israel. If you've been following my channel, and I'm sure I'll lose people for this, I support Israel. I pray for Israel. But you should understand this. For those of you who are, and I still, you got to understand, these Jews are this and these Jews are that. When you read your Bible, when you read particularly the New Testament, just understand 3/5 of it was written by an Israeli. The Apostle Paul. You were saved by a Jew. If you call yourself a Christian, you were saved by a Jew. And before you even say it, no, he wasn't a Jew. He was a Hebrew. He called himself a Jew. Jesus called himself a Jew, which kind of makes sense that their hatred for Jews. It makes sense when you can see it like that. It's like, that's the last. They can't stand the very sight. They don't want to hear that name, Jesus. That name just drives them insane. You're saved by a Jew. If you call yourself a Christian, just understand your ticket into heaven was punched by a Jew. Now, Stewie doesn't call himself a Jew. Yeah, he does. Read the 4th chapter of John. Okay? When he meets the woman at the well, the Samaritan, he tells her point blank, you people don't know who you're worshiping, but we know who we worship because salvation is of the Jews. Those were the words of Jesus. He calls himself a Jew. So this anti-Jew thing, it cannot take root in the GOP. It hasn't just taken root. It's like bearing fruit in the Democratic Party. I mean, I think Charlie Kirk was like one of the clearest thinkers, just a real clear thinker about Christianity and Christianity's world or role in America. A very clear thinker on that. That Nick Fuentes can't stand Charlie Kirk. Now, to be fair, it's my understanding that Nick Fuentes says that, racism, I just hate black people. He says that's like low IQ stuff. He said that's low IQ stuff. And now at the same time, he's like, I don't want to live next to black people, but guess what? I know a whole bunch of black people that don't want to live by black people. I don't know what to tell you. I'm not gonna down the guy because he said he didn't want to hang out. I don't want to live with him. Well, guess what? There's a whole bunch of black people that don't want to live next to black people. That's a whole nother show. Okay. So there's some real jockeying right now in our party. And I feel it is incumbent upon me to let you know. Donald Trump is not going to be on the ticket. Well, that's a real problem because apparently if Donald Trump is not on the ticket, Republicans don't go vote. Republicans don't vote if Donald Trump isn't on the ticket. That's a problem. You just saw it. Now, granted, those are all blue states. Those are all deep blue states. So, okay. But they won handedly. Because Republican, we are some of the most feckless people. You know why, though? I'm talking philosophically, because we stay in our own lane. Whatever my neighbor is doing, that's my neighbor's business. What in the world am I doing over there? Why do I care? Unless he invites me and wants me to help or something like that, that's my neighbor's business. That's how we live our life. Work hard, come home. Raise family, come home. Well, unfortunately, that is our Achilles heel. Say what you say about the left. They organize and mobilize. They get in your face. We don't do that. Like we don't do that. We don't get in people's face like telling them, no, you gotta believe this. And if you don't believe this, then we don't do that. In fact, we do the exact opposite. Don't we? Look, and you know it. If you're a conservative and you're watching this, you know that's the case. And we're going to have to get over it. Donald Trump will not be here after 3 more years. It's over. Okay? It's over. And what I don't want to go back to is the neocons. The forever war, forever, intervening in other countries' affairs. I don't want that again. Sorry, I don't. Still, what are you talking about? We got to go right back to Afghanistan. No, we don't. No, we do not. We don't need to go to Iraq. We don't need to do any of that. We need to leave people alone. When it comes to Iran, which I'm sure that's what you're thinking, still, what are you talking about? We just bombed our nuclear facility. And for good reason. Because when they're chanting death to Israel, death to America, guess what? I don't want them to have a nuke. We are staring down the barrel of a revolution in our own party. And I will not allow the Nick Fuenteses to flourish. At least I will denounce everything that he has ever said. And he couldn't be a Christian. I'm guessing he's not, which is probably why he hated Charlie Kirk. So you give me the solutions because I don't have any. I just know that conservatism has to be championed by Christians. The traditional family has to be championed by Christians. Otherwise, we will lose our party, just like Democrat establishment are losing their party. You saw it. But if you saw this video from the beginning, you saw the demise of the Democratic Party. You're talking about that Spamberger person. There are no more centrists in the Democratic Party, not in positions of, real leadership. The running as a centrist is over. They are the one thing that you should get from the last election is that they are not moderate. They are all or nothing. They are not working class as much as they take. You're gonna go tax the hell out of all the rich people. It's like, okay, well, guess what they do? Guess what all those rich people do? Those horrible billionaires. Guess what they do? They actually employ people. Yeah, they actually employ people. And no one talks about that. Yeah, when people actually go looking for a job, they typically don't go to the homeless unless you're a grifter and you live in California. And then the homelessness is actually an industry. Where do you think $24 billion went in California? It went to the homelessness industry. That's why we won't solve homelessness ever, because it's a business. People are getting lots and lots of money for it. I don't know where this party is going right now, but let me make my stance right here, right now. As for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. I want to make that really, really clear. Now, you want to be in the party and you want to be a Nick Fuentes? Fine. But they should never be given positions of leadership ever. Where they make decisions? No. Okay, hopefully I made my case. Okay. They keep telling us that Donald Trump has fundamentally changed the GOP. No, he hasn't. I wish that were true. If that were the case, that we would get rid of the filibuster and start legislating and getting Donald Trump's agenda ensconced in Americana, but we're not doing that. I don't know where we're going to go from here, guys. And you can tell me what you think. But that's the real reason Nancy Pelosi got out. She saw the writing on the wall. She knew where the party is going, and she can't be a part of it. She would lose. That's where all of their energy is right now. Socialism. Socialism for everything. That's where their party is right now. Us, on the other hand, we're grappling with people like Nick Fuentes, who thinks J.D. Vance is a fat race mixer. Why do you care who he married? That never ceases to amaze me. It's not like he's telling you to do it. You get married to who you want to marry. What it does, is it just me, or does it sound odd when you say Nick Fuentes is a white supremacist? I'm not sure that he is, but with a name like Fuentes, how are you a white supremacist? Does that sound odd to you? Here's my next white supremacist, Nick Fuentes. It's like, that doesn't sound right. Hey, that's just me though. All right. For those of you who would like to know what cigar I'm smoking, I gotta tell you, man, I fear for our party. I just want to make something really, really clear. I fear for our party. Because if it splinters, the Democrats will win. If we splinter, we're handing it over to leftist lunatics. Bank on it. All right, guys, if you'd like to know what cigar I am smoking, you know, it's kind of funny. I can barely, it's Flor de las, hold on a second. Let me take the band off. This is sun grown. And so let me show you the actual band. Oh, it's a beautiful band though. Can you read that? No, probably not. It's very difficult. Anyway, you guys tell me what you think. I think it's difficult to read. Flor de las something, and I can't make out the other name because of the way the band is. The band is beautiful though. It's just I can barely read their name. Anyway, it's a good cigar. So if you can find this band, okay, if you can find that band, I think that you would be impressed. It's a very, very good cigar. I think you would enjoy it. All right. That's it for now. If you like the video, smash the like button and subscribe. And if you're following me on Rumble, please press that follow button. And until the next time, God bless.